Hello chess friends and welcome to Azarov Chess Channel and welcome to the heated round 10 of the Tata Steel Masters in 2024. Before this round we had 4 leaders with the same point count. Gukesh, Nodirbek, Abdusatorov, Bxb4 Pragnananda and Anish Giri had 5.5 points out of the first 9 rounds. Now it's, I think, really critical round. Bxb4 Pragnananda already played a draw. When I watch now over this game between Anish Giri and Alireza Firuja, I think this game will end also in a draw, and also Nodirbek Abdusatorov has a tough battle with the black pieces. The evaluation in his game is also 0.0, so probably this game will end with a draw. We are following now an amazing and important game now also by the leader Gukesh. Today Gukesh played with the black pieces against Alexander Donchenko. So when I analyze now this round, this could be now a huge opportunity for Gukesh to take the lead in this prestigious super event of the Tata Steel Masters in 2024. So let's see now what happened. We have here Alexander Donchenko with the white pieces. He opened with the move d4. We have knight to f6 by Gukesh, c4, e6, we have knight to c3 and bishop to b4 leads, of course, into the beautiful Nimzo-Indian Defense. We have now the move e3, the normal line, kingside castling, and now bishop to d3. As usual, white wants to simply develop the knight to e2 and then continue with f3 e4, getting a huge space advantage in the center of the board, getting 3 pawns connected simply in the center. White, of course, doesn't care if you take, because white has not exposed himself with the move a3. That's the beauty about this normal line. Now in the next move we will eventually play the move knight to e2, and then always we can recapture the knight after bishop to c3 with our other knight. So that's why Gukesh blocks out now immediately the e4 square with the move d5. So Gukesh is not allowing this move to happen here by white. We have here c takes d5 by Donchenko, releasing the pressure in the center. E takes d5, and now after a3 Gukesh simply retreats with the bishop. The bishop still has a good function here. We don't want to give up the bishop in an early stage of the game. Now there are maybe some tactics here around the square h2 in the later stage of the game. So we have queen to c2. Donchenko does a similar idea, also attacks the h7 weakness. We have c6, preventing knight to b5. We have knight to e2, and now Donchenko is preparing this move f3 e4. We have rook to e8. You see, still it's a battle for the e4 square. In the later stage, I think Gukesh wants to try here queen to e7 and then maybe knight to e4, blocking out the position. Never ever allow this e4 move to happen. We have bishop to d2 by Donchenko, knight from b to d7 by Gukesh. We have f3, preparing finally the move e4, and now c5. Good counterplay here by Gukesh, because if e4 happens now, then of course after c takes d4, this is not a powerful center anymore. We have at least traded off the d pawn for the c pawn, so white will never have really, I think, a space advantage in the center of the board. So this is the way to go. Good move here by Gukesh. We have h4. Here Donchenko goes all in, so he is attacking now simply the king side. He says, I have my resources here, g4, g5, h5 if possible, maybe deflect the knight from the defense of the h7 pawn and simply hitting it with the bishop. Of course, this beautiful queen and bishop battery is something that bothers black in the continuation of the game. So now Gukesh plays a theoretical novelty, knight to b6, which is not really the engine's favor here. Not a mistake or something, but for instance, the suggested line by the top engine Stockfish is to play the move a6, expanding here on the queen. So for instance, you try h5 to attack the position further. You can always block it out, and after something like g4, you get simply the king out of the g-file mess, and now after queenside casting, you have maybe this resource, b5, and I think here black should be even slightly better, has, I think, more chances here to attack on this side of the board. But knight to b6, nothing wrong with this move, because here Gukesh noticed maybe the weak square on c4. He wants, of course, to take over here on the queen side. We have now the move g4 by Donchenko. Donchenko is sticking to his plan. He's trying, of course, to attack the position further, as promised, g5, and then hit the pawn on h7. We have knight to c4 by Gukesh, bishop takes c4, d takes c4. Now black has a double pawn structure, but has, I think, the bishop pair which is a good compensation for the strategic disadvantage, this double pawn structure on the c file. And the bishops love these types of positions where the position is unbalanced when the pawn structure is asymmetrical. So I think here also black is perfectly fine. Of course, white has a healthier pawn structure if this game reaches the fully endgame stage, and of course in the later stage white could be better, but maybe Gukesh can do something with his amazing bishop pair. And here Donchenko immediately doesn't react correctly. He plays now the move d5, weakens simply too much now his position, because you will never be able, I think, to play here something like e4 e5 in order to break and enter in the center, because black has a great control of the e5 square. Now the d5 pawn becomes actually a vulnerable pawn. A better choice here for Donchenko was simply to play kingside castling. After something like bishop to f8, you're trying maybe the move h5, but now we can always get out of this mess with knight to d7. You're trying to attack, and now we release simply the pressure here in the center of the board, knight to d4. And I think this would be a much better position for white than this previous one. The knight has a good control of the f5 square. We can play maybe even e4, knight to f5, e4, bishop to e3. c4 is still weak. We're controlling b5, so it cannot happen immediately in order to attack the queen side. So this was, I think, probably a better choice here for Donchenko. Queen to g5, of course, open simply the g file too much here. Then white will simply continue the pressure here on this side of the board. So as I said, this was maybe the way to go. But after move d5, now Gukesh finds, of course, the optimal plan. Plays now the move rook to b8. Plays wants simply to get the move b5 and then break and enter here with the move b4. So here again, not the optimal move by Donchenko. h5. H5 seems tempting because you want to push the pawn further. Also g5, maybe also play g6. But I think here Gukesh's attack is much more powerful with this idea b5. A better choice here, instead of this move h4 for Donchenko, was to play the move a4, at least stopping the attack for a while. For instance, if a6 happens, then we have a5, and white has at least defended for a while this position on the queen side. b5 is never an opportunity because we'll simply take en passant, and I think the attack would be splashed. Still, probably black is slightly better, but at least, as I said, you're stopping black's attack here on this side of the board. So g5 also, for instance, here is not so dangerous if you play because after knight to d7 we get the knight on f8. We control always the h7. Still we have a powerful attack on the e file. So the only way here maybe to somehow stay in an equal position is to play the move a4, blocking out the potential b5 move. But after move h4 here, Gukesh is saying, okay, I'm a little bit faster in my attack. Here we have g5, but as promised, knight to d7. Again, this maneuver, getting the knight on f8 or maybe the bishop on f8. One of those pieces has to defend the king further. So one of those pieces will get on f8 for sure, so at least you have a new defender around the king. So we have f4 here. This move is, of course, attacking further the position, but it weakens the light squares, I think, a little bit too much in white's position. So what Gukesh needs to do is get the knight somewhere and get the bishop here maybe on f5 if possible later, and then the bishop would be very dangerous. For instance, you play something like g6 and then bishop to f5, and the light square bishop will become simply the best minor piece on the board. Here Gukesh plays first of all on his defensive resource, bishop to f8, but also clears the e file because the king is still stuck in the center of the board. We have now h6, g6, of course, passing through, and here I think black is already much better because of the light square problems here in white's camp. We have rook to d1. Here Alexander Donchenko is trying somehow to hold his position around the square d5. Gukesh, of course, attacks the pawn on d5, but still knight to b6 is playable. But I think still this idea, the main concept that you have started in the beginning, b4, would be much more powerful here for Gukesh. For instance, a takes b4, c takes b4, knight to e4, and now we have two mobile pawns that are rolling here on the queen side. The f6 square is well protected by the queen and the knight, so nothing dramatically can happen here. The e file is locked. As I said, the only piece that needs improvement is maybe the light square bishop, but the light square bishop is finally opened, and I think it will be a powerful piece. So here, not I think a good continuation here for white this would be. So that's why knight to b6, not the optimal move by Gukesh, but still he's continuing the pressure. Still black is better here, and Gukesh still continues the pressure around the square d5. We have king to f2 here. Again, maybe not the optimal move by Donchenko, because he thought that he could maybe hold this position around the square d5 by clearing the d file after maybe knight to d5, and he hoped maybe to protect the pawn on e3. But knight to g3 actually was more powerful, because after knight to d2, now you play king to f2, and this was really the stockfish adjusted line. I would not come up with this idea for myself for sure, but look how Stockfish would actually defend this position with the white pieces. The problem is here you cannot play bishop to c1, clearing the d file now anymore because of this resource. Knight to e3, and then you'll have also knight to c2 comes with check if you take out the queen, so it's not working. But actually, after king to f2, you can hold this position, because after b4, now we have this one, knight to e4, maybe bishop to e6, and now you clear simply this file, maybe something like bishop to e7, and now you can even take, because after knight to e3 takes, this game, okay, is of course slightly better here for black, but maybe you can somehow stuck to this position. There are still some problems here around the square f6 for black. As I said, this was just a suggested stockfish line. But here, pardon me, Alexander Donchenko played immediately king to f2, and Gukesh noticed, of course, the problems around the square d5. Now he played b4, we have knight to e4, and now he pins the knight on f5. It's a whole different story now. The queens are still on the board, and as I said in the middle of this video, when the bishop is coming into the game, then the position is devastating here for white. Of course, Donchenko is trying to hold this position, but now a brilliant idea here by Gukesh. Rook takes e4, brilliant tactic, which of course leads into complications. Here we have an amazing compensation in piece activity. The knight is pinned, rook is coming into the game, and this knight is going to be taken for sure. We have knight to f6. Here Donchenko is trying to do some tactics, but after queen to f6, still, of course, this queen is hanging, but also this queen is hanging. So that's why e4, we have queen to d4. Beautiful tactical sequence that's going on now. You have to now play king to f3, and now after queen to d5, I think the game is, I would not say over here for Donchenko, but Gukesh finds really the best moves now all over again. If you take, of course, then again we'll simply pick up the piece here. Then the d5 is again weak, and black would continue with two powerful minor pieces against the rook. So that's why bishop to b4, the only move Donchenko found here in order to somehow survive the attack. We have bishop to e4 by Gukesh, good move again, queen to e4, queen takes e4, king takes e4, but now he can pick up here the bishop on b4, a takes b4, and bishop to b4 here. Again, black is much better, has two minor pieces and a pawn for the rook, which is, I think, a great compensation. The king is endangered here. The only thing that you need to do here from black's perspective is create maybe here some kind of a passer, push it further with the support of the pieces, and also with the support of the rook. We have rook to d4, bishop to c5, rook to d2. We have a couple of perpetuals, but actually, when you think about this harder, this is a good choice by Gukesh to repeat moves, because of course, when you get to move 40, you get extra time. Now we're move 35, so you can do some perpetuals, and as I said, gain at least the next couple of moves, and later when you get an extra hour on the clock, of course, it's then a different story. So that's why here we have a repetition 2 times of the same position, but now Gukesh finds also a beautiful move that liberates now the king. The king was a little bit stuck here, because if you don't play that, you're always vulnerable maybe to some back rank checkmate problems or back rank checks. So that's why f5, good move, which of course after g takes f6 en passant leads into this position where white, okay, gained the pawn, but now 3 pawns are weak, and of course they're vulnerable to black's attack. We have king to f7, rook to a1, king rook to b7, covering everything here. Gukesh gets attacked on the back rank, but here he finds the best move. Of course, king to f6 clears the 7th rank and protects the weak h7 pawn. We have rook to a6, we have rook to e7 check, king to f3, rook to f7, rook to h8, you have to cover, and now we have here this idea, rook to a8, you cannot take, of course, because of this other rook's activities. That's why bishop to d4 first. We have rook takes a7, rook takes a7, rook takes a7, and now a brilliant move here by Gukesh, knight to c8. This move is tricky because if you play rook takes h7, actually your rook gets trapped. That's the way to go. The rook doesn't have any more squares. That's the issue here. The rook cannot move anywhere. You cannot move the pawn. You can just move the f5 pawn, but this square is taken. We will eventually pick up the pawn on b2 and let this pawn roll on the c file. So great tactical idea here by Gukesh to play the move knight to c8. That's why rook to c7. Gukesh plays knight to d6. Now we have rook takes h7, but it's the same story because after knight to f7 again the rook is trapped. The rook doesn't have good squares, so here this pawn will be taken, and Donchenko has only one choice here. He has to play now this idea, rook to g7, but it's not enough here because for bishop to g7, h takes g7, we have knight to h6, of course, controls the g8 square. You cannot promote the pawn, and here Donchenko tried king to e4, and Gukesh simply played king to d6, which is of course a great move, and f5 is well protected. You cannot push the pawn. What you need to do is just to get here this king towards the action, somehow pick up the b2 pawn, and this should be, I think, game over here for white. After king d6, here Donchenko played, of course, king d4. He's trying, of course, to grab the c4 pawn, but now, of course, this tactic is coming, knight to f5, taking out this pawn on g7, and here again Gukesh played this knight on the optimal square, attacks again the king. We have king to e4, king to e6, great move again by Gukesh, great endgame move going into an opposition. We have b4 by Donchenko, and now after knight to e7, king to f3, here Gukesh is getting the king closer. It's not allowing also in some lines to this g5 move to happen. If you, of course, trade off these 2 pawns, then it's a thematic draw. That's why here b5 by Donchenko, knight to d5, controlling, of course, the b6 square. We have king to g3, and now knight to f4. In this particular position, Alexander Donchenko resigned. So what's the issue is if you push the pawn further, of course, this knight is holding always the b8 square. Will eventually push our pawn here, and it was a fair resign, I think, by Donchenko. So great win by Gukesh. As I said, Pragnananda played a draw. I think Anish Giri also played a draw. The game between Nodirbek Abdulsatorov and his opponent is still going on, so Nodirbek can maybe also win the game. If Nodirbek wins his game today, then we'll have 2 leaders, Gukesh and Nodirbek, but so far Gukesh is in the lead with this powerful win with the black piece. So congratulations to Gukesh, amazing game, amazing defense, amazing Nimzo-Indian defense, but we have seen the game was really roller coaster with great tactics all over the board. So but Gukesh has a deserved win and has now great chances to win the Tata Steel Masters in 2024. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. If you want to see more commented chess games here on my YouTube chess channel, check out our commented chess games and also our commented chess games played by computers. Here are the links of our playlists, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.